Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. So today I have a kind of how much can I read vlog. But what happened is I have 4 books here that are due back to the library very soon, and I just so happen to have 4 days off. So you can guess what I'm going to be doing those 4 days. And I haven't decided yet if I want to try to read a quarter of each book every day or try to basically finish a book every day. But the 4 books are The Love Simulation. This is one that I'm definitely very excited to read. It is about 2 teachers. They both teach at the same school. We have Brianna, and she is, I believe, a librarian, or she at least wants to grant money for the library. And the principal, who is Roman's father, says, yeah, no, I'm not going to give it to the library. We're going to give it to the football field. And then both Brianna and Roman wind up going to this Mars simulation that is a contest open to teachers. Whoever wins gets a grant for their school. And so Brianna thinks that Roman is there on his father's behalf to try to get like more money for the football field or whatever, so that she can't get the money for her library. And it sounds really fun and just kind of like a really unique kind of setup. Then the next book I have, which is a YA, is The Rebel and the Rose. And this is the sequel to The Dagger and the Flame. I don't know a whole lot about this other than that it's the sequel and that we are following Seraphine and then Ransom, who were obviously on 2 different sides in 2 different factions. This is kind of a urban romantasy in a way. I read the first one really quick in like 2 days because the text is big, the margins are big. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely one that will be easy to read quickly and one that I am looking forward to. I did enjoy the story. I'm just not sure where exactly it will go. Then the next one is another sequel. This is Kills Well with Others. This is the sequel to Killers of a Certain Age, which I didn't realize it was going to get a sequel. I don't know a whole lot about this, but in the first one, we are following 4 women who are all over 60, and they are all retired assassins. And when the people that they work for decide to try to assassinate the assassins, things ensue. And it was quite funny. I did also quite enjoy the camaraderie between the 4 women. So I am excited to see what this one gets into. And then the final one, which I have read a little bit of at work today, is Chloe Gong's Cold Wire. So this one I will actually have technically 5 days to read. And this is about a alternate reality, a different reality. However, it is at least somewhat similar to Earth in, dealing with pandemics and rising ocean levels, just taken to a more extreme, and it's set in a fantasy world. And this I consider, though, more sci-fi because we have downcountry and upcountry. Downcountry is reality, and upcountry is a virtual reality that has been made to basically mimic Earth or this world perfectly, except for the fact that, like, well, it's perfect. There's no problems there. And this follows Uriel, who has graduated from this military academy and is now out and about helping the military, and Leah, who is about to graduate and has to work with her academic rival. So yeah, so far I am enjoying this one. But those are the 4 books I have, and I'm going to update a little more on Coldwire and then continue reading. So as I said, I wanted to update a little bit on Coldwire before continuing on. I am on page 44, which is just a little bit into chapter 4. And as I said, it alternates between Uriel and Leah. And one thing about this world, you have 2 countries. You have Atua and then Medalo. And this takes place mostly in the country of Atua, but Atua and Medola have been at war. There are a lot of Medulan war orphans living in Atua, and all of them are required to go into the military academy, or a military academy. And then they're also required to pay for this. They cannot have anybody else pay it for them. So they're then kind of forced to become part of the corporate army for a corporation called Nile, which is the corporation that created this virtual reality world. And yeah, it's definitely interesting so far. I said 44 pages, and we're getting kind of a lot of history. However, one thing that is really, really bugging me is that, there's so much emphasis on like the physical fitness of these corporate soldiers, but yet this Nile Academy is upcountry. It's in the virtual reality. Lifting weights in virtual reality does not train your body, at least not the way they're set up here. And not only is the whole academy in there, they have to do a final assignment, which is basically a military assignment. That is also in virtual reality. So how do they think that's going to translate to when these corporate soldiers are out in the real world? How do they think that's going to translate? Yeah. Leah as well, the whole thing, she does not want to eat real food, but yet she has no problem sticking a needle in her arm. Basically, when you go, they are required to go for a month at a time in this virtual reality while they are in the academies. And she would prefer to be in there. But she has no problem putting the needle in there to get in her arm to get her nutrients. I have a thing about needles, so that I was just yeah, no, hard pass for me. And it is kind of interesting to see kind of her thoughts on it when she's in it. And then you do meet some older characters who were around, because they're saying this virtual reality has only been around 20 or 30 years, and you can join it at 5. And I'm not sure if it's always been like that. So if you have characters in here who are late 30s, early 40s, and they remember a time before this. So that's kind of an interesting juxtaposition to make as well. And it's definitely a lot more political, with the political side of the war, the trying to use the Medulan orphans to help win the war thing. I wasn't expecting that to kind of be as emphasized as it was. But yeah, we've definitely got some interesting things going on here. I'll be interested to see how these 2 stories come together. And no, I still haven't decided if I want to do a quarter of each book, or if I want to try to finish this today and then go on to another one. But when I have another update I will let you all know for sure. So it's obviously the next day now, and I decided to start the love simulation, and I have read 8 chapters or 78 pages in this. And as I said before, it follows Brianna and Roman. And I was wrong. Brianna is not the librarian. She is the vice principal of the school and is trying to help refurbish the library after there was a flood. And so that is why she wanted the money for it and everything. But everything else, Roman is the principal's son. The principal wanted Roman to be the vice principal. And so that obviously creates some conflict. And then originally, he was not supposed to be part of this Mars simulation, but then somebody has to drop out. And of course, Brianna is very suspicious of that because she saw the principal talking to the person who dropped out like just the day before. So she is pretty sure that Roman is there to sabotage everything. She also has an older sister, Camille, that has played a relatively big part in this book so far. And I really love her and Camille as siblings. I think they're very sweet. And then I was correct in thinking as well that the Kiss Countdown, which is Etta Easton's debut, I was thinking that that was somehow related to this, and it is. That is Brianna and Camille's older brother, who is the main male character in that book. So unfortunately, I will be reading them out of order because I am starting with this one. But so far, this has been very fun. The only little quibble I have is that Brianna is so worried about I am vice principal. I have to like be separate from the teachers. But again, why would you? Like I could see, yes, you have to keep professional, but 2 teachers also have to keep professional. So I'm not sure, exactly where that came from, but that is going to be not a very big part of the book because this takes place over the summer. And so I do feel like that will just kind of fade out. And in some ways, I do suppose it makes a little bit of sense. But I have decided now that I'm going to go ahead and pause this book and I'm going to start, I believe, Kills Well with Others. That is the one that's kind of calling to me next. So I'm going to try to read about 100 pages in that, and then I will come back and update you again. I made it to page 74 of Kills Well with Others, and this has continued to be a fun little series. We're following the same 4 women. It is Billy, Helen, Mary Alice, and Natalie. And as I said before, they are retired assassins, basically. And this one is a bit of a dual timeline, which is fun. I enjoy kind of seeing how they were in the past and how they have changed throughout it. And yeah, that's really all I can say about it because I don't want to spoil too much of this or really like the first book. But I do feel like this picks up really well from where that first book left off. And I'm definitely interested to see where this is going. I do think this is all I'm going to wind up reading today, so I am a little bit behind, but I do believe I can catch up. So wish me luck over the next 2 days. I made it to chapter 18 of The Love Experiment, and this is actually turning out to be really fun. We are now pretty deep into the Mars simulation plot, and that's really fun to like see how they deal with the things that are happening in that simulation. And it's also really fun to see Brianna becoming more friendly with all the other teachers. And then we get to see kind of like a little bit more of everybody. And then I really also found it funny that one of the books she brings is That Time I Yeeted a Love Potion, That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf, because that's a book that I read not too long ago. And it's a fun fantasy book. It's just kind of always fun to see a book referenced in another book. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the last, not quite half of this plays out. But for now, I'm going to put this one down and go back to working on Kills Well with Others and update when I have something to say about that one. I'm now at chapter 17 of Kills Well with Others, and this has continued to be a pretty good book. This one is actually turning out to be less humorous than the first one, but it does still have a lot of action in it, and the mystery in this one is actually pretty fun as well. And the jumping back and forth in time has slowed down a little bit, and I'm a little confused now as to how that's going to connect with the modern day. But yeah, this has definitely been a pretty fun read, and I'm enjoying meeting up with Billy and everybody again. Another interesting thing is in the modern day part, it's written in first person, and in the past, it's written in third person. So I'm wondering if whoever the narrator is for that last part is going to be like a twist as well. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. And I'm about, I guess, halfway through it where I am now. But I'm now going to pause this and go on to Coldwire. I do want to try to finish that because I don't want to start the Rose and the Rebel until I've finished that. I just feel like they'd be a little too similar to read at the same time. But yeah, I'm going to read that and let you know how far I get. On chapter 11, page 140 of Coldwire, and this is definitely getting very interesting. I'm enjoying the world building. We are getting a little bit of the differences between between the two countries. I can never remember their names. Atahua and Medallo. So in Atahua, you have a lot of like monthly users that stay in the pods for a month, whereas in Medullo, they have a lot of daily users who basically just log in for like work and then log back out, or they log in just for the nightlife and then log back out. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that. And then also the privacy settings that these things, different countries have. It's interesting to explore that a little bit, as well as, we learned that in Medallo, you can customize your avatar. Like, you can't change height, but you could change, like, weight and stuff like that. Whereas in Atahua, it's basically you get scanned once a month or whatever, and then you are updated to look like that. And sure, you can go and have like plastic surgery in virtual and haircuts and stuff like that. But yes, that's just kind of an interesting little conversation there. I am definitely enjoying this more now that I've gotten a little further into it. It is one that is obviously reading a little bit slower, which I think is just because there's a lot of world building going on, a lot of information. I finished Coldwire, and this was actually a really good book. I had no clue where it was going. It did take me a little bit longer to read because there is like a lot of world building and stuff, but I did really enjoy that and just really enjoyed this in general. I do like the fact that even though it's YA, it doesn't feel super young just because of like where the characters are in their life and the fact of like this world. They, while they do have their kind of young moments, you can understand it, and I didn't really get frustrated with them because I did feel like they were making it the best of a bad situation, and considering everything, I felt like they made maybe not great but decent choices, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one in this trilogy. I do wish I would have known it was a trilogy beforehand, and then maybe, I would have waited until at least the second one was out, but that comes out in November of this year. So yeah, I do highly recommend this, and I'm now going to be trying to finish the Love Simulation. That's actually going to go on over into Tuesday, but I do believe I'll be able to finish it at work and throughout my time after work Tuesday, so I'll update you then and then close out this vlog. I just got home from work and I was able to finish the Love Simulation. I thought this was pretty cute. I did like Roman and Brianna. I did feel like they got along well as a couple, but I also felt like there was a little bit of chemistry missing. Like, I could definitely see them liking each other and everything, but it just felt like there was maybe a little bit missing. I did really enjoy the Mars simulation plot. That was really fun. So yeah, overall, I would call this a pretty good book. So, obviously, I did not finish everything I wanted to. I only finished 2 out of the 4 books. I did get a good ways into Kills Well with Others, as you all have seen. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here because it's obviously been quite a bit longer than I intended it to be. But as always, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, plan to read any of them. Let me know what you're reading now. I always enjoy talking with you all and, seeing what you're reading. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. That way you'll be notified every time I post something new. And I will see you next time in the book cave.